This week, Mali's Colonel Goita decides that being a mere mortal colonel is beneath him, while Mozambique's elections play out like a rigged lottery everyone has already lost. And in Namibia, presidential dreams apparently come straight from God, because who needs votes when you've got divine Wi-Fi, right? Ali, welcome to Second Take. In a masterclass of upward mobility by force, Colonel Assimi Goita, the architect of Mali's 2020 coup, has decided it's time for a wardrobe upgrade, promoting himself to the rank of Army General. But not just any general, no. He's now Colonel Assimi Goita of the Land Army, a title so grand it's been held by exactly two others in Mali's history, both of whom eventually stepped aside. Goita, however, seems to have no such plans for an exit, preferring to savor his military makeover as long as possible. And because every self-respecting strongman needs his inner circle of enablers, 5 other members of the junta also received their very own 4-star general badges. Why share power with civilians when you can distribute promotions among your friends? It's like a military merit badge system, only instead of democracy, the prize is indefinite control. The Council of Ministers, ever dutiful, released a statement confirming the obvious. Power isn't going anywhere, and neither are elections. In fact, if you're waiting for democracy in Mali, maybe check back later, like much later, because this move signals that the junta is as committed to civilian rule as a cat is committed to water. Moving on, Mozambique's longtime power hoarders Frelimo are once again claiming the electoral crown in all 11 provinces according to provisional results. Because, well, who needs surprises when you've had a 48-year head start? The ruling party's golden boy Daniel Chapo was expected to waltz into the presidency on October 9. Predictably, the opposition parties are screaming fraud, like it's their job. One of them even called for a strike, as if the people of Mozambique haven't been striking with their votes for years, just, without much success. Venancio Modlane, who is the independent candidate and apparently Mozambique's next martyr, claimed he was actually in the lead, according to his own version of math. He heroically vowed to grind the nation to a halt on October 21 with a nationwide strike. Bold move. Lutero Simango of the ever-hopeful Democratic Movement of Mozambique, a party known for punching well above its weight, has plans to take the election results to court. Because when you've been denied the presidency by a juggernaut like Frelimo, a courtroom drama feels, like the next best thing. Meanwhile, Frelimo, ever the masters of silence, didn't comment, probably because they were too busy oiling the gears of power they've held since 1975. Chapo, in an act of political restraint, urged the nation to stay calm while waiting for official results, which, spoiler alert, probably won't differ too much from the unofficial result. Election observers, bless their hearts, were quick to point out that the election didn't exactly scream democratic. The International Republican Institute diplomatically noted several issues: vote buying, intimidation, inflated voter rolls in Frelimo strongholds, and zero transparency. So basically, business as usual in Mozambique. Full results drop October 24, but let's be real. We all know how this ends. And now, in the latest twist of divine destiny versus democracy, Ali Angula, one of the 3 self-styled independent presidential hopefuls rejected by the Electoral Commission of Namibia, has declared that her exclusion from the 2024 elections won't shake her belief in her heavenly ordained presidency. Angula, who initially rose to political fame by claiming that God personally informed her in a dream that she was destined to be president, seems undeterred by the fact that she could couldn't gather the support of 500 registered voters in all 14 regions, as required by the Electoral Act. But who needs earthly votes when you have divine endorsement, right? The ECN officially closed the doors to potential candidates, and Angola, along with Jeremiah Kambo and the virtually unknown Elsie Ndapandula Shena, were shown to those doors without ballots. No independent candidates will be making the cut this time around. ECM chairperson Elsie Kembwa said that the trio had simply failed to meet the bar set by the law, falling short of the region-wide support needed to qualify. Yet in an interview, Angola doubled down on her belief that the presidency is her destiny, seemingly unbothered by the small detail of electoral rejection. Whether or not she appears on the ballot, Angola remains convinced that her ascension to the presidency is a matter of divine timing and not earthly logistics. Before I leave this earth, I will become president of Namibia, she declared with unwavering conviction. In a less celestial turn of the conversation, Angola did acknowledge that Namibia is facing some earthly problems, namely unemployment, inadequate housing, healthcare, and utilities. She painted herself as a guinea pig in the ECN's latest bureaucratic experiment, claiming that the new electronic system for independent candidates turned her from a political campaigner into a glorified data capturer. Instead of rallying the nation, Angola found herself stuck, entering the names of supporters into a system, lamenting the administrative burden that seems to have stifled her God-given presidential path. But why bother with the regional support or data capturing when divine intervention is on your side? In Ali Angola's world, the votes may be missing, but the dream lives on. Here is a conversation I had with Elizabeth Qebes on religion and politics. Joining me now is Elizabeth Qebes, who is a journalist for Namibian Sun. How's it going, Elizabeth?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Awesome.
So we're talking politics and religion. And I've got a couple of questions for you. Do you think that one's religious belief system could influence their political decision-making and policy choices, particularly as a public figure?
I haven't been around in that beat for a long time. So I've just been around for a while. And what I've realized is that if you take that step, say for example, if you decide today that I'm going to run for the presidential office, I don't think it's necessary for you to bring your religious beliefs in there. You know, you could just say that I am deeply inclined to run for office, or I believe that I have something much more or bigger to bring to the table in terms of politics, in terms of change. I don't think it's necessary for you to say that because I'm a Christian or because I'm agnostic or because I'm whatever, I need to run for office. So I don't really think that people should join politics with religion at all.
You don't think it's like a motivator?
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Of course, it feels a little weird, you know, I guess in Africa, because religion was imposed by politics historically. And of course, other countries do have religion and politics coexisting. But then there tends to be this trend, if you will, and you see it. I remember the Rwandan president once shut down over 100 churches where religion can be used to manipulate and take advantage of people. And to be fair, if there's a realm that could use a lot of manipulation and taking advantage of people, it's politics, right? Absolutely. Yeah, so sometimes because it's hard to verify a voice from a superpower, you know, from a higher power, you can't hold someone accountable according to what they heard, you know, to something that you personally might not have seen. And yeah, so I can understand your sentiment. So can you share your perspective just on the separation of religion and politics in Namibia?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important to understand that Namibia, with its long history of trauma in terms of politics, in terms of just having expectations from political leaders and being failed countless times, for someone to come in and say, God showed me to do this, God showed me to do A, B, C, and D in terms of restructuring the economy of the country, you know, just doing anything in their power now, unemployment, housing, everything like that. To say that a higher power has nudged you to do something. I think that's very manipulative, especially seeing that the majority of the people that would end up voting for this person
are desperate people.
Yes, they're desperate, and they're also very religiously inclined. Yeah. So now you're coming to someone knowing that this person would trust and believe anything that you say just because you do it in the name of Jesus Christ or you do it in the name of whoever you believe in. That's why those two things, even though it can coexist, I don't think they should be, you shouldn't mix one with the other. Just come and say, this is what I want to do. And just come in and do it on your own accord.
Because actually, I mean, if you do look at the Christian Bible, I would assume one is expected to be a Christian every day. One is expected to be concerned about community in their everyday lives. So it's interesting when people then translate it to also being asked to be responsible for the nation. Very
by
interesting.
who, not by someone that you can literally go to and ask or hold accountable. So now you just have to believe in the words of this politician and believe that the change that you've been dying to receive, the change that you need in the country will now be at the hands of this person.
And now they've also got a safety net, right?
Yep.
If things go wrong, was it them? Or was it the voice of God?
Well, I didn't want to do it. God told me to do it, so look at him.
Who knows?
So those two things, I don't think, even though it can coexist, don't mix the two at all.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much
for having me. Good to have you on the second take. I'm interested to know your thoughts as well. Should politics and religion mix? Let us know. See you after the break. All right, it's time to shift our focus to the Namibian election as I chat with journalist and Namibian youth, Irene Marie van der Walt. I am joined by Namibian journalist Irene Marie van der Walt as we talk about the upcoming Namibian election. How are you?
I'm good, Ashwin. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You've been, covering different aspects of the election. Of course, you spend a lot of your time at the courts in particular, so you know a lot of the inner workings of Namibian society. But what's your general take on the atmosphere towards election? Is there excitement?
I think there is an excitement because even before election season started, there were talks that maybe this could be the one that Swapo doesn't win, which is always a very big turning point for a country's political landscape. Is usually after independence, the party that brought independence is, the party that takes over the country and runs the country for a long time.
Yes.
And the point where that party is no longer the strongest party and the party in power is usually a very big turning point and a point of growth for a country's political landscape.
Zimbabwe cannot relate, but continue.
And I have spoken with Prof. Jan Kutsia from NAST about this specifically as well. And I think for me, it's been very disappointing to see kind of a political immaturity in the other parties. I mean, parties that don't have their manifestos ready. That's supposed to come with the creation of your party.
You had an incident. You don't have to say which party it was, but you had an incident with one of the party folks, and you were trying to get their manifesto. How did that go?
Yeah. Okay. So we were at a conference with the media ombudsman, who is the person that you can complain to if you feel the media is not being impartial and so on and so forth, and not fulfilling their mandate. So we're at this conference, and someone from a political party gets up and says to the media ombudsman, he was hoping to get a meeting with the media ombudsman to complain about the media only reporting on the negative aspects surrounding their party. So I know that this party had not released their manifesto at that point. I turned to this person, I asked them, where's your manifesto? How am I supposed to ask you questions and engage with you, and gauge what your party stands for and spread your message if there's no manifesto? Where's your manifesto? And meeting concluded. Afterwards, this person comes up to me quite gingerly and says, we'll have a manifesto next week, Friday. We would have done it this week, Friday, but our president is out of town. And then the manifesto was, I think, 2 weeks after that, next week, Friday, it landed in
my goodness. So yeah, I understand. I mean, when you say political immaturity, you can kind of get that because manifesto, I mean, that's your talking point. That's what you're telling the people.
It's your selling point.
It's your selling point, exactly. That's what you're telling the people you have to offer, and you don't even have that document in place. I have to say, even on second take, we spoke about how long it took for the manifestos to roll out. Manifestos should probably be the first thing once you start campaigning. Otherwise, what are you campaigning for? What are you campaigning through? You know what I mean? So I get that. Any thoughts on some political flip-flopping?
I think it is expected in a more heated election. I think prior to this election, all our elections were kind of expected to go the same way. So this is the first time where we have that potential for an element of surprise. So people want to be locked in, but they're not sure where to lock in because of that element.
I mean, imagine if you're a follower of Michael Mshilelo, right? So you start off with the NEFF. Let's go. We're going to go to the election. NEFF is deregistered, essentially. They're told they can't compete in the election. He swings over to Landless People's Movement. He goes there, so you follow him to Landless People's Movement. And then towards the election, less than 3 months to the election, EFF is re-registered and they are going to compete. And then he swings back to EFF. I mean, surely those have to be some of the points that are working against the opposition. What are your thoughts?
I think, specifically in the case of Michael Mshilelo, it appears to be that he wants to be with the NEFF, from where I'm standing, and that the only reason he left the NEFF, according to me, would then have been the deregistration. He's someone who's made it very clear that he wants to be in politics. He wants to make a difference there. What difference he could make or would make is not for me to say. But he's made it very clear that this is the direction he wants to go in. So it's natural that he would then have left the NEFF and gone somewhere where he can make that impact that he promises he wants to make.
But the thing about going somewhere is you have to make sure that the same values are reflected. And I think there were signs. I mean, when LPM tried to put him on the parliamentary list, he said, you know, he wants to earn his stripes, so to speak. And then in the same week, he swung back to the NEFF. Of course, you know, he's not actually the presidential candidate for the NEFF. We all need to practice his name. But now, just to say that, you know, as a movement, the most popular person in NEFF is Michael Mshilelo, without a doubt. Okay, let's talk about some of the other opposition parties. You know, when we talk about people feeling like things might shift differently, you know, something like Zambia. You know, Zambia have had that threefold democracy in the sense that they've changed powers over 3 times, which really makes them solid as a democracy compared to other countries which have still had their liberation movements, you know, ruling throughout. But we're looking now at the opposition. Is anyone really potent enough? Because we're not talking about, you know, a SWAPO that's really on the back foot, so to speak. Yes, they lost a potent leader in Dr. Hageji Gengob. He was not going to compete in this election. President Nangolo Mbumba seems to have just taken the presidency in stride. He's moving with it. There's some consistency. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, there's barely, if any, negative issues. And when we say negative, we're talking about corruption, because that's what we're always checking for, you know.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing really there. So everybody's kind of like, you know, starting afresh with regards to the candidates. In fact, the oldest presidential candidate with regards to experience would now be Pantuleni Itula. He's got the most experience with regards to running for president. So do you feel that the opposition really has what it takes to take on SWAPO, which is very determined for more reasons than one? One, of course, you want political power, you want to maintain political power, you want to grow, you want to make change, etc., etc. But also there's oil. There's green hydrogen.
Yeah.
The country is on the cusp of immeasurable success and wealth, and one would obviously want to be there to usher that in. So do you feel there's anyone who can really shake the table?
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
I mean, in the face of how long we waited for manifestos, in the face of being told we can't do the manifesto because our president is out of town, I'm left to question that, because if this political party is elected, right, the people within the party will be first in line for jobs as ministers, as, you know, all of these things.
And they need to know how to hold it down.
Exactly. So when your party president goes out of the country on official business, hypothetically as our president, they need to go out on official business.
Yes.
So if your party's president leaves the country, you can't do anything. You can't draft a document. You can't send it to them. Somehow their cell phone, their email doesn't work when they're out of town, you know. Will our minister stop working when the president leaves the country?
Probably not.
That's the thing.
So you're looking at the practice, and you're like, the practice doesn't look good.
Yes.
So you're
What experience do you have? Because I'm sorry, I don't want to elect a ragtag team of misfits into our parliament. If you can't draft a document, you cannot run this country. Communications from political parties is a very big problem. The media is not getting the same communications from political parties, you know. They're kind of sending it out there, and wherever it falls, you know.
So it's not intentional.
It's not intentional, it's not planned, it's not strategic. So if you can't communicate properly, or you can't draft a document when your president is out of town, you cannot run this country. I want people, for me, I want a minister of health who has a background in health. I want a minister of ICT who has a background in ICT. I want a minister of agriculture who has a background in agriculture. I want people who know what they're doing. I do not want a ragtag team of misfits who think they can run the country and think it might be fun to run a country. I want people who know what they're doing.
What does this mean for folks who really have a lot of, they're top heavy, so to speak, a lot of competence at the top? I mean, political competence on paper, Job on Panda, it's quite easy to see. But if you trickle it down, you're probably not going to find this experience that you're talking about. And that experience is hard to come by because no one else has been in power. You know what I mean? But of course, there has been enough time to craft some kind of political repertoire. And even if it's not political, social, political, what are you doing in society? Some indicators. For example, Job on Panda, some might say that being a mayor was his first audition to see if he can be president. So how do those guys like mitigate that? Do you think things like coalitions could come into play?
I hope so. Not because I think coalitions would bring the experience that I'm talking about, because there is none. In none of our political parties, there's people that I can single out as you and you would be good in XYZ positions. But because that would give us actual opposition to what a ruling party is doing. If SWAPO decides X, it might be just because they're stubborn, it might be because of their own pride, but those other parties in the coalition are also going to make their voices heard. And that's one thing that to me is deafeningly absent in the years prior to the election year, is those opposition parties. Where are our opposition parties? You hear the LPM talking about this and talking about that and talking about minibuses. But when it comes to parliament, when it comes to real constructive discussion...
When it comes to campaigning outside of the region, you have a stronghold. Let's start there. You know, I mean, just to build on that point, because it is a trend, right? You find where your stronghold is, and that's the only place you campaign. Job on Panda, you have the billboards heading towards the north. Fair enough, you do need to get votes, and you know where the populace is. That's fair. But you do want to lead all of Namibia. Where is the southern vote? You know, he has been... accused of tribalism. In fact, he lost a defamation court case, you know, loosely based on that, but it was mostly on defamation, and this is to Maureen Henda. He's since decided to appeal it. We don't know if the appeal documents have officially been put up, but the simple point I'm saying is it also because not everybody wants to stretch out to get the whole of Namibia involved? Most people just want to expand on the crowds that they already have from that place and just kind of hope that, you know, it attaches everywhere.
I think that is a comfort zone for a lot of political parties. Is I'm comfortable here because thousands of people show up to my rally and shout my name.
And if I get in parliament, I get benefits.
Exactly. That's the big one. I spoke with someone who's knowledgeable on this as well, who's qualified in politics as well, and that was his big point, was if you can get yourself a seat in parliament, then you're kind of set for life. You're fine.
You're fine financially, you're sorted. I mean, we've heard about those some of the spending, unscrupulous spending, so to speak, and you can see that. Okay, we don't have independent candidates.
We don't.
Zero, zilch, none of them in this election. Is that bad for our democracy?
I think it's bad for our democracy, but rules are rules.
Rules are rules. Oh, here's the thing. Part of the reason some of these independent candidates, in fact, probably all of them, can't compete is because you need 500 signatures from each region. 500. They failed to get that. So...
how many votes would they realistically have gotten?
Yes, because you want millions of votes, and you can't garner 500 signatures from each and every region. It makes us question whether you actually have a message that, you know, relates to the people. But at the same time, you can look on the flip side where it's like democracy is the idea that everybody's voice should be heard. And the presidential campaign trail itself is a platform. So for some people, being on the ballot is the only way to really get people to, you know, to talk about what you believe in and to expose them to how you want to lead the country. But again, like you said, rules are rules.
And also, again, what have those independent candidates told us before? Because had the media reported, had social media even carried a message of what they were going to do,
there's one
people
of them
would have been more likely
know.
to sign.
There's one of them who didn't even. Elsie Shen, peace, love, and respect to you, madam. We had no idea who you were.
You seem nice.
You seem nice. Ali Angula said she got the vision from God. Not sure how we verify that, but that was her big political talking point getting started with it. But you know, I mean, to speak in her realm, you know, faith without works is dead. And part of the works was getting 500 votes from each region. Iriana, thank you very much for bringing us your journalistic knowledge and your expertise to Second Take. We'll certainly be catching up with you before the election. Remember, the hashtag is Namibia Decides 2024. Our TikTok of the week comes from Linde Sibanda, who is doing his very best to mitigate his end-of-year fatigue. Enjoy.
I know we're in the middle of October, but I only have 3 working days left in me. 3. That's all I can give them, 3. Anything more is a stretch. I don't have it in me. I know myself. I know my body. All I have is 3 working days left in me. So I'm going to space them out. I've thought about it, bro. End of October, 1 day. Middle of November, 1 day. Beginning of December, around the 2nd, 3rd, 1 day. That's all I've got. I don't have anything more, bro. I don't have anything more. I'm done. This year's been done for me. But 3 is what I can give you.
All right, that's all for this week's Power Grabs, election shenanigans, and divine presidential aspirations. While Mali's junta tightens its grip and Mozambique's ruling party dusts off its perpetual crown, Namibia's dreamer Ali Angula reminds us when democracy fails, there's always divine intervention. Just, you know, minus the voters. Tune in next time when we'll probably witness another coup or maybe even a new prophecy. Until then, keep your ballot safe, your generals humble, and remember, when politics gets a little weird, laughter might just be the best form of resistance. A luta continua. Cheers.